The F8 Lightning, the apex predator, one of the most heavily armed fighters in the game. Pressed into service following the Platinum Ticket Wars of 2953, it became available to many backers in current form, which naturally prompts the question, how does the F8C perform in-game? I'm Forrester, and in this video we'll explore the answer to that question by reviewing the currently flyable Anvil F8C Lightning, which is described on the Star Citizen website as a heavy fighter. If you've seen other reviews on this channel, then you'll know what to expect with this video following the usual format. It's split into 5 sections, starting with a ship tour, assessing combat performance, reviewing handling and visibility, looking at the operating costs before finally summarising. As always, I've included timestamps in the video description in case you want to skip ahead. And if you're one of the many people watching who isn't yet subscribed to the channel, you might consider that so that you can be notified of future Star Citizen videos as they go live. As the F8 hasn't yet had the gold pass to the exterior, there isn't too much to add at this point. Entry into the cockpit is via a button on the front left or port side of the fighter, which takes the pilot up into the cockpit itself. Externally, there are the 6 thrusters at the back and the sleek profile of the Lightning. That sleek profile reduces the surface area available for opponents to shoot whilst attacking. There's a turret up top, additional weapons under the wings and nose, and landing gear deploys these cheeks to either side of the cockpit. One of the unique features of the F8C is the notably heavy armament it has under the command of a single pilot. Beneath the nose are 2 size 3 gimbals, armed with 2 size 2 Badger repeaters. Beneath the wings are 2 weapons on each side, 1 size 3 Tarantula repeater and 1 size 2 Tarantula repeater, and that's on each side. And finally there's a big turret in the middle, armed with 2 size 2 Badger repeaters. For a total of 4 size 3 mounts and 4 size 2 mounts. That's a lot of firepower. Add in 2 missile racks, armed with a total of 8 size 2 missiles, and the F8C brings a lot to the party. Defensively, the Lightning carries 2 size 2 shield generators, which is roughly equivalent to a Vanguard, so pretty good defensively for a fighter. Throw all of that together and you've quite understandably got a very potent war machine. The F8 absolutely shreds through targets, able to deal with all manner of combat threats. On the default loadout, there are a couple of trade-offs however. The capacitor runs dry after a few seconds of firing and just needs a little recharge, and the ballistics eventually need to be restocked. There's also a slightly different convergence for both the ballistic and laser weapons, but for many people, swapping out the weapons for a more consistent loadout will yield strong results. Nevertheless, the combat performance of the F8C is notable. From a visibility perspective, the Lightning is inspired by traditional fighter jets and accordingly carries good sightlines all around from the canopy up front. From a handling perspective, the F8C is badged up as a heavy fighter and does kinda feel like that. That's not to say the handling is bad, it still feels like a fighter, but at SCM speeds the Lightning will drift through turns and take a little time to spin around. The SCM limiter defaults to 212 meters per second, and actually reducing that a little helps avoid some drift. The top speed is up to 1,337 meters per second, which seems like it can't be an accident, but is fast enough to chase down all manner of ships should the situation require it. The stock quantum drive is the Expedition, which is kind of a middle-of-the-road drive. The F8 has ample onboard fuel stores, so upgrading to a military spec drive and maintaining a decent range, especially for a fighter, is more than possible. costs to rearm, refuel and repair the Lightning will run up into the thousands, potentially up to the low 5 figures of Alpha UEC, depending on what you've been up to. As a combat ship, the F8 excels at making money through the various combat contracts, as you might expect. These are the only real money-making option for the Lightning, but that's not unusual for starfighters. Moreover, for combat pilots, the F8 will more than cover the costs of operating the ship. By way of loadout changes, given that the Lightning is primarily used for combat, it might be wise to do some upgrades to maximise that performance. Upgrading the quantum drive to something like a VK00 and the shields to some military spec shields like the FR76 might be advisable. Equally, adjusting the weapons loadout to all match might help too, for example an all laser or an all ballistic loadout to simplify operations. The F8C is a meaty combat fighter, very capable in all manner of fights, which comes as no surprise for a ship that heralds itself as the pinnacle of UEE naval hardware, albeit in civilian form. If you're thinking of buying an F8, it's because you're interested in combat, and in that regard, it really doesn't disappoint. The Lightning isn't just a well-performing ship, however, it also looks great. Whilst the ship hasn't yet had a gold pass, that feels less critical for fighters than for other ships, and the F8 really isn't an outlier amongst fighter-sized craft in that regard. There has been some controversy around the ship as it entered into more general availability to players, but given that this is a ship review rather than a commentary on policy, it's something that I'll acknowledge and then move on as largely irrelevant to the performance of the ship. One drawback to note is the reclaim timer, currently at 16 minutes, so in the event that you push too hard, there is a small wait to get back in the ship to try again. That said, the beefy shield performance to some extent mitigates that risk. All of that brings us to price. For those who are able to buy it following a golden ticket, the price is $260 to $300 depending on Warbond. That is, I'm sorry to say, very expensive for what you get. Don't get me wrong, the F8C is very much a top-of-the-line combat ship, but compared to other heavy fighters, that price tag is also top of the line. For the same money, more versatile multi-crew ships are an option, including more combat-focused ships like the Redeemer. That makes the Lightning probably only worth it for those players who know that this is the ship that they want. Still, for such players, the F8C is a very cool ship and performs well in-game despite the heavy price tag. But what do you think about the Lightning? Are you a fan or not? I look forward to reading your thoughts in the video comments. If you enjoyed this video, you might press the like button to help me understand what videos to make more of in future, and if you're not yet subscribed to the channel, you might like to do that too, so that YouTube knows to show you more videos like this in future. But otherwise, and as always, thank you for watching.